بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the master of the day of judgment.
Is there any way that we can check to see on the fourth floor if they can hear?
To his magnificence, his omnipotence, his might, his glory, to his being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the day of judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. It is said that in the early years of revelation, the Muslim community faced great persecution at the hands of the mushrikeen of Mecca. And as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw companion after companion be boycotted, beaten, abused, and even killed in front of his eyes, part of his trajectory was to see where they could leave from the city of Mecca that might take them in and give them a place they could call home that was safe and had sanctuary to it. And of the places that the Prophet of God went to was a city called the city of Taif, thinking that the people would welcome him in, but rather than being met by any types of embraces, the chieftains of the tribes of Taif commanded the children and the servants of that town to run the Prophet out of the
Because they
city.
can't see.
And we had narrations in our traditions that said the Prophet was so abused that what he was wearing on the soles of his feet actually became hardened to his feet because of the amount of blood that was coming out of him. That this did not take his place for 5 minutes or an hour. 5 wasn't moments, but it was longer than that. And when he leaves from the confines of that city, broken, beaten, not knowing what is going on, he turns in the direction of the heavens to Allah and asks Allah, have you forsaken me? Then he takes solace and rest.
It is, yeah. It's
Outside
usually we have
of the
two,
city.
we don't have the second one.
And while he is sitting there, the angel comes to him. O Muhammad, I am the angel of the mountains that surrounds the city. If you command me to do so, I will crush these people. The Prophet, in his exhaustion, his tiredness, broken and seemingly beaten in every way, does not say, yes, go and seek vengeance on my behalf. Go and carry retribution out on my behalf. Go and tell these people what it is that they are owed for hurting me. But he responds in the way that we would expect him to respond. No, let them be. Perhaps the generations that come after will understand. Many of us, we have faced a reality in the last few days
Move this up.
that has
Move this
left
up so
us
it drops.
feeling exhausted. And I would say to you, the recognition of how we respond to that reality necessitates understanding and affirming for ourselves whose legacy we actually follow. Because our Prophet, when he was even reaching the limits of what he thought he possessed, he still responded with a sense of awareness, mindfulness, and compassion. I would say to you that it's difficult to digest, but recognize that most of what it is that we're trying to process is how, in fact, something like this happened. What I would say to you, my brothers and sisters, is that
It didn't start just a few days ago or weeks ago or even months ago. But the realities of what it is that we see taking place in the aftermath of Tuesday's elections are realities that many populations in this country have seen for decades, if not more so. We have everyone please move up. When you wrestle with the reality of how is something like this possible, the answer that you are going to get is not going to be distinct from the answers to questions that many of us have thought we have answered, but in reality, we haven't. Because how this is possible can also be qualified with different premises that we're trying to understand. How is it possible that individuals who are undocumented and try to enter into this country just because they have a dream are being treated the way that they are treated? The answer is the same. How is it possible that indigenized populations whose lands were taken from them years and years ago and settled on lands much smaller than what was rightfully theirs and yet again are trying to be unjustly usurped find themselves in that situation? The answer is still the same. How is it possible that our black brothers and sisters get shot in those streets every day without consequence? The reality is still the same. And why we have to be mindful and conscious of it is that if the only way that we awake to these realities is by having something so blatant now in our faces that we can't deny it anymore, and that's what we need to wake us up. To understand where we are necessitates recognizing where it is that we would like to be. People get to a place where they're trying to make analysis and affirmation of why would people be motivated to do what it is that they've done. There are individuals who are racist. What can we do? There are individuals who are bigoted. What can we do? There are individuals who are not motivated by racism, hatred, or bigotry. They were motivated by greed. They saw opportunity to have certain healthcare provisions repealed so that they could make more wealth as doctors. They saw opportunity for taxes to be lower in certain brackets so that they could have more money in their pockets. The egocentricity that manifests itself in hate, bigotry, greed, selfishness is something that is there. We have to ask ourselves now, if you will meet that with fear, you will definitely be beaten. But if you move it with a certain strength and values that you can now reaffirm your relationship with your Lord based upon real love, real hope, real commitment to equity and justice, that helps us to understand and recognize realities that might necessitate in the coming days, weeks, months, and years the acquisition of things that we should have been doing long before, but now definitely we need to do more than ever. Like giving up some of your weekends and spending time for the sake and growth of a community. By recognizing the wealth that you have been given, not something that is just for you to now acquire more of the material, but thinking about how you will put it into individuals who are excelling across demographics in our communities. To build the institutions that we need. Because if you don't see and understand how the results of this election can indicate to us why the systemic and structural racisms exist in this country the way that they do, and that individual voices alone that can give us inspiration or be charismatic to tell us that it's okay for us to retreat back into a bubble of an existence because our skin color is not the skin color of the most oppressed in the countries. For our class is not of the class of those who are most underserved and underprivileged. This moment will be futile if you allow for it to be something that just your desensitizing of reality kicks in after a week and you lose the ability to build momentum that says perhaps things will change when I see that this world is much bigger than my needs, my wants, my desires. And I take my skills, my talents, my credentials, my resources, my strengths, my physical, my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, for the sake of a community, for the sake of a city, a country, a world that is in need for me to start thinking about others before I think about myself. It's going to be difficult. You read the same news as I read. May Allah make things easy for all those who have faced any pain as a result of this nonsense. Realities that are not just miles away in different parts of this country or miles away in other countries as a result of what it is that we have in this country. But we're going to have to make a choice. You and I are going to have to decide. Many of us can think back to what it was like more than a decade ago, where there was sweeping raids of our communities, people telling us to let go of our identities, to shave off beards and to remove headscarves, to don all kinds of clothing that had insignias and symbols that we didn't even know what they meant, but it was more about assimilation and integration. And then when our charities had their assets frozen, when our mosques needed 24 hours of security and surveillance, when we found ourselves in places where we said, no, don't speak to this because you don't know what it'll do in terms of consequences. They still took our brothers and sisters and deported them miles and miles away. Patriot Acts were created. Guantanamo existed. Where many of us were comfortable in letting go of parts of ourselves, we failed to recognize that the strength of our collective was the missing component in taking on some of these realities. Can everyone please move up? If you come in close so we make room for everybody. You can't meet these things just with a sermon or two. It's going to necessitate real strategy, real organization, where we put all of our eggs into one basket, and we believe that one speech, one video, one thing that went viral will somehow change everything. No longer can we expect for others to build what it is that we have the ability, and now more so than ever, the recognition and imperative to build for ourselves. You've heard every story of our sisters being harassed on the streets. May Allah make things easy for them. How many of you have gone to any of them and said that I will walk with you? As men, how many of you have decided to visibly don your Islam so that perhaps some of that prejudice will come towards you? When we thought about what this meant, where was our immediate thought process going? What will this do to me? What will this do to my people? What will this do to my family? As opposed to, what is it that I'm going to do to make sure that everybody else is doing okay? I've said it to you before. Hear it now in a different frame. Just even simply, the level of wealth that's in this room could build amazing things in this city. And if we were to harness with strategy, those of you who understand how to build strategically, stepped up and said, I'm going to build. Those of you who make millions of dollars, set the example for everyone. I'm giving it for the growth of us. Those of you who are doctors, those of you who are lawyers, those of you who are engineers, those of you who are in the academy, those of you who are artists, those who work in media would come together and say that this is now for us, not even just for Muslims, but for the sake of a humanity that our Creator put into this world, and challenge His angels when they said, why are you going to put people on this earth who all they can do is think of themselves? And our God said to them that you don't know what it is that I know. That I will make firm intention, that I will be evidence of my God's decision, that we will be representatives of His mercy, His love, His compassion, and justice in this world. Don't hide yourself, and don't let anybody take it from you. And where you have strength, bear that strength to don parts of an identity that whether or not you believe that you need to do it for the sake of your own Islam, do it for the sake of the collective. How you carry yourself, your character, your demeanor, the language that you choose to use or not use, to be honest, to be trustworthy, to not break promises, to be in a place where you work better and harder than your best has ever asked you to understand that this is now not the time to engage in petty ideas of racism and culture that we elevate before religion. If you still adhere to foolish notions that would say that I will not let my children marry somebody from this village, I will not let this person or that person sit at my dinner table, what are you really learning at this point? We live in a city that can set the standard for the rest of the country. And where we need to heal is not going to come just from words. But our real healing is going to come from making deliberate action that understands that what today is bringing us should not prevent us from building what it is that we need tomorrow. You all have young people in your lives. You have children that you know. What they're telling our kids right now in schools, and I'm not making it up, some of them being the only brown kids, the only black kids, the only Muslim kids. You can't sit at our lunch tables. You're not going to be allowed in these schools soon. The examples that our children need will be beyond just sitting with them for a moment to make them feel better. But to think and really assess, there's 500 of us in this room, another 200 people on the 4th floor. We have to build the schools for our children. We have to build the legal services for our underserved. We have to build the advocacy groups. We have to build the clinics. We have to be in a place where we do so with a sense of strength, a sense of dignity, a sense of empowerment. In the coming days, we're going to send out emails soliciting you all to sign up for different task forces that we're hoping to create. It will be in the framework of a process of strategy. I will tell you, this community is now in the thousands. And as we increase in leadership, we increase in staffing, we increase in programming, it'll necessitate more wealth, it'll necessitate more skills, it'll necessitate more understanding. But you make a firm commitment that is not in response to anxiety, a commitment that is tied to love. That says, through the days that I am blessed to breathe in this world, I will do my part in ensuring that we will not let realities that impact the most underserved and underprivileged in our communities be realities that come into play with us not doing what we could to counter them. When you make a decision of where it is that you will go or how it is that you will invite, think of the reality of the time. And understand that one person alone is not going to bring us down. But really how it is that we talk to ourselves and how we create space to talk to each other, to let people just vent so that they can heal, will be critical as we move forward. We have what it takes. I'm not going to sit here and give you a tired response of everything will be okay, in the sense that we hear over and over regurgitated. I'm not God. I can't speak on God's behalf. But in recognizing who Allah is, what He is to all of us, I can affirm for myself who it is that I am. And not justify passivity by just saying that this is God's will, this is God's plan, put your trust in God. But to let God be God, the entity that loves you and I more than a mother loves its child. To then live in a way seeking His pleasure, not tied to the false realities of this dunya any longer, with the recognition that there is a world, most definitely, that will come beyond this one. How am I living for that? For those of you who believe you have something to offer, please don't sit anymore. For those of you who think our metric of success is because we now have 2,000, 3,000 people who come to Eid prayers, or Sheikh so-and-so, or Mayor such and such came to events, that's not the end of anything. The achievement will come as we continue to understand that all of it is a part of a process that necessitates understanding there will be more tomorrows after every today. So I turn to you and ask of you to be the answer that many are seeking right now. To be bold enough and audacious enough, courageous enough to raise your hands to the skies and ask of the divine to make you the answer to people's prayers. Together, we will build what it is that our community is in need of. With our allies, our brothers and sisters, we will get done what it is that we have the ability to. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. It's a few things as reminders before we make dua. You have rights. Don't let yourself be silenced or intimidated out of them. If you find yourself in a place where you have been discriminated against, you believe you have been discriminated against, don't leave it to chance. If you don't know where to turn or how to do it, please do reach out and we will connect you to the best resources possible. If you are a lawyer and you are sitting in this room, you work in media, you work in government, you understand strategic development and growth, we need you now more than ever. And if you are not any of those things, we also need you as well. But start to think about how you will use your time in these coming days. Some of you have asked about engagement with federal law enforcement, visiting, if not yourself, visiting family members in other parts of the country. Prior to the election taking place, there was a sweep by FBI and other agencies of many Muslim communities, visiting homes, knocking on doors. You don't have to let them into your house. If you opt to talk to them, don't do it without a lawyer. If they tell you to come to one of their buildings, you're not inclined. You don't have to do so. Fear and intimidation are tactics that can be utilized against us more so when we are unfamiliar with certain things. One of our student groups is hosting a Know Your Rights workshop with CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations, immediately following the Jummah prayer, about 3 o'clock or so in our prayer room downstairs. Go to it to understand some of these things. Your voices are critical, and building collaborations and coalitions are going to be important. So long as you understand, you have to bring yourself to those coalitions, not what you believe people want you to be for their own comfort. There is literally a group of Jewish people standing outside right now, handing us roses because they know what we are going through. Our students last night held a rally on the steps of the building next door, one of the biggest gatherings this university has ever seen. People came from across the campus. There are people who will stand with us, but who you want them to stand with is not just what you believe you have to be in order to fit in. You have to stand in your truest of form, your strongest of form, an identity that is rooted in positivity as you seek to do what your God wants you to do. Unapologetic in every way. So that you let no piece of you be dictated or governed by those whose interest is nothing other than their own self-interest. As reality hits, just open your eyes and recognize that the hearts that are within you are what's going to get you through it. I'm going to ask you for your own reflection at any place, the job title you have, the amount of money that you have, the neighborhood in the city that you live in, the car that you drive, how big your home might be. Is that giving you the contentment in these last few days? This is why our prophet says, لَيْسَ الْغِنَى كَثْرَةَ الْعَرَضِ وَلَكِنَّ الْغِنَى غِنَى النَّفْسِ. The true richness is not having an abundance of things of the earth. The true richness is having a richness of your soul. Take a look inside of your heart. You let it be something that gets filled with a love and understanding, a sense of hope and commitment and compassion. People can strip you away of anything, but they will not take from you your strength because it's within you in a way that's not able to be taken. To make announcements and du'as, I would ask all of you at the conclusion of the prayer to just be seated for a few moments. A good friend and our colleague, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, is with us again. And on her own volition, she was one of the first of many who had reached out to us, saying that we are here for you in whatever way. I've asked her to just share a few words at this time. So once we finish praying for the prayer, if you can sit and listen to her for a few moments, it would be appreciated, inshallah. Just a few announcements to make before we pray. As I mentioned, One of our student organizations is hosting a workshop downstairs in the prayer room. It's room 472 on the 4th floor. The interaction workshop with one of CARE's attorneys discussing our rights as employees, students, travelers, when interacting with law enforcement or FBI agents. Tomorrow at 3:30 in the prayer room, our conversations group is going to be hosting an Islam 101 class focusing on prayer and ablution. And tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in the basement level of this building, we're going to be hosting a talkback and screening with New York Times Mona and Nagar on the Ladies First documentary. And then next Monday, inshallah, at 6:30 p.m., our students are hosting an event in conjunction with the Black Student Union on campus with Ilyasa Shabazz. It's called Growing Up X. She's the daughter of Malcolm X. It's a very timely program for us to find some of the empowerment that we're looking for. On our last announcement in March, inshallah, we're going to be having our annual Umrah trip, and the applications and registrations for that are open. It's a few du'as. Many of our students were very close to a young sister whose experience you probably heard about this past week. Her name is Samiha Khan, who, after being a survivor, a victim of sexual abuse for a very long time, ended up taking her own life. She was abused since the time she was 8 years old. Big dua for her and her maghfirah. Allah grants her the best of places in the world beyond this one. Protects all of us, our brothers and sisters, from any type of abuse. To give wisdom to the abusers that they not engage in this kind of oppression. Our sister Tariya Chaudhry, who's one of our alumni, her aunt passed away this morning after dealing with stage 4 cancer. One of our undergrads from the Stern School of Business, Aisha Haq, her grandmother passed away this morning as well. Please keep them both in your prayers that Allah grants them peace and entrance into Jannah without any judgment, inshallah. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad fil awwaleen wa fil akhirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi. If our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Ya Allah, Ya Rabb, Ya Arham Ar-Rahimeen, you know what it is that is in our hearts. For those of us who face any anxiety, for those of us who are facing any anguish, Ya Allah, we ask that you alleviate those things from our insides. Ya Allah, give us true confidence. Give us true strength. Give us a true sense of real dignity rooted in empowerment. Where your beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to you at a time when he felt as if nothing of his tactics were moving forward or working, and asked you to give izzah to his people, to his community, a respect, a strength that was rooted in dignity. Ya Allah, we ask you for izzah. We ask you, Ya Allah, to bring izzah to our entire community, to our brothers and sisters throughout this city, to our brothers and sisters throughout this country, to our brothers and sisters throughout this world. Ya Allah, bring that izzah through this community. Bring that izzah through the men and women who are seated here today. Bring that izzah, Ya Rab, through each of our actions, through each of our decisions, through each of our choices that we will allow from this point forward to bear manifest into some type of deed in this dunya. Forgive us, Ya Allah, when we forget. Forgive us for our shortcomings and mistakes. Let us be from amongst those who you use to bring benefit to your creation. Ya Allah, accept our dua. Ya Allah, accept our dua. Ya Allah, accept our dua. Ya Allah, grant us Jannah. Ya Allah, grant us Jannah. Ya Allah, grant us Jannah. Ya Allah, for those who find themselves without community at this time, those who find themselves alone and don't know where to turn, those who don't have resources at their disposal, those who don't have people to turn to, Ya Allah, help us to remember them in our prayers and our dua, to live a life that recognizes their existence, whether they are the same race as us or not, whether they are the same gender as us or not, whether they are the same ethnicity as us or not, whether they are the same class as us or not, whether they are even of the same faith, religion as us or not. Ya Allah, help us to remember all of our brothers and sisters, and to remember always that there is a world beyond this one, and how in fact we engage this world will bear an impact on where it is that we will be when we stand in front of you. Ya Allah, protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Strain your line shoulder to shoulder, inshallah, fill the gaps. Verily the formation of your sufuf is part of your salah. Keep in mind you are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so praise if this is your last prayer, inshallah. Also, please take the time to silence any electronic devices that you might have with you, so as to not distract one another during the course of the prayer. May Allah accept from us. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين
وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Again, as a reminder, if people just have a few minutes to stay seated, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum is here with us. She brought a group from her synagogue to be with us here today, just to show support and solidarity. Rabbi, do you want to come join us? So if you can please just give her a few minutes of your time, it would be appreciated, inshallah.
Salam alaikum. I'm so moved to be here today with my good friend and colleague in trying to create a world in New York for all of us, Imam Khalid Latif. And we are here today with these signs and roses which we gave out to make sure that you understand, in amidst all the hatred that we're going to be hearing this week and moving forward, there are so many of us in the Jewish community here in New York who are with you in solidarity. And I'm here today to say blessings to each of you, blessings to all of your families and those who you love. And together we have to resist and create communities of love and of faith against the voices of hatred and intolerance and violence that exist. So I have said to the Imam, members of my community would love to be here at any time to stand out in front, to make sure there's no fear, that you can come to prayer with a sense of safety. And just as you hear voices of hatred in the world around, know that there are so many of us who are surrounding you with our love and our blessings. God bless you all. Thank you.
The rabbi is here with a few members of her congregation, so once you pray your sunnah and nawafil, if you see them on your way out, just please express gratitude to them for being here. And if you can, make a point of visiting them at their community as well.